Hejsa. I have started a new project. When I was making the log cabin quilt, the orange one for my sister, I had made a test block to see how I might quilt it, and that has given me the idea that I'm going to make another log cabin quilt. And in this quilt I'm going to use my scraps, which seem to be forever multiplying. But I hope by making a dedicated effort to make these blocks that I will get somewhere where I can maybe at least see the bottom of the scrap pile. So I've got this block, and now I'm every so often when I have an hour spare, I'll come in here and cut up some of the scraps so that they're ready to go. And I sort them by color, so here we got the green ones, and somewhere I had a pile of purple, I don't know where that went. So I've already made quite a lot. So here's some pink ones that aren't quite big enough, and a bunch of blue ones. I'm not actually sure how big they are, and I guess I don't know yet what the quilt is going to look like. And I have an idea that maybe it would be fun to mix different sizes, so these small ones and then the bigger ones, seeing as it's going to be lots of different colors anyway. My husband and I spent Christmas in Denmark to be with my family and friends over there, and we were going to be away for, I think it was 2 weeks, and I thought, I can't just sit around, do nothing. So I actually brought a bunch of scraps so that I could borrow my mum's sewing machine and make some more of these blocks, or partially made, because I didn't have enough to sort of make them a good size. Although again, no idea what this is going to be like. I might use something small like this, or maybe I want them all to be 10 inches by 10 inches, who knows. Although I did just have some news about a friend in Denmark. I'm not gonna get into the details, but I think she deserves a quilt, and I'm thinking I might use some of these blocks for that. I might keep it to one sort of color, or mix it up a little bit. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure that I'm going to use the blues and the pinks at least. So now I have a sort of an actual project in mind, although what the project will be is still a bit up in the air, apart from that it will be these wonky log cabins, or scrappy log cabins, because they aren't actually that wonky. It's just wonky because I use uneven size strips. So now I have some thinking to do about the project for my friend. I quite like to work with the greens and maybe the yellows, but we'll see. I have another friend who really loves purple, but she already had a quilt, so I'm not going to get sidetracked. I'm not going to be making 2 log cabin quilts at the same time. So now I have sort of a project in mind for the log cabins, or some of them anyway. And I also have a deadline because I know when we're going to Denmark next. So now I just need to get on with my cutting, which I don't think I'll do on camera. It does make a fairly loud noise when you're using the rotary cutter, or at least I think so. Sometimes I watch quilting videos and that sound is really jarring. Maybe that's just me. And also this ruler here has a sort of metal edge. I'm not entirely sure what it's made of. That is supposed to be sharpening the blade as it goes by. I'm not sure if it actually works, but that is making it even louder than usual. Bear with me, I'm just going to try and cut here. I don't know, was that loud for you? So I'm going to spend some time cutting all these strips, and then I've got a day to look forward to where I'm just going to, I think, chain piece all these, well, not all of them in one go obviously, but a lot of log cabin blocks, which is really fun. And then I usually start them with a 2-inch square, and for this Scrappy project I just use any. I have a paper bag. Sorry about the rustling noise. This is not the one with the squares in it, but I have a paper bag for roughly each color of fabric, where I just dump in all the strips that have been cut. And then as I'm sitting by my sewing machine, I take out handfuls at a time and then I use those. I don't worry too much about what they're going to look like. I just grab whatever. So these ones that are made in Denmark, they're a little bit limited in the different fabrics because I didn't bring loads. So I just used what I had. But that's fine. Once I add more, you won't notice that they have similar fabrics. Like this apple one. I actually quite like this fabric. I don't normally like fabric that has sort of, I don't know, photographic elements to them. Like this one. But for some reason I really like these apples, which I didn't buy. My mum gave it to me many years ago. I don't know if I should show you how to make one of these blocks, although I can't take you to the sewing machine, so we'll just have to sort of pretend. So you start with a center square, and then you take another piece of fabric and sew that onto the square. So I sew it on the right, and then once that's sewn on, I turn it, and then I'm ready to sew on the next one. That's too short. Let's see, we're going to go with this one. So that one's sewn on across both of these. And then return it again. So now these are, if you imagine these two are sewn onto that, and then I would trim this off, and then I grab another piece, this one maybe. Although actually I try to use only 1 inch wide or 1¼ inch wide strips around the center. So let's stick with that. Let's see, what have we got? This one. So I would sew that onto there. And again, turn the whole thing and trim off the excess. And then what have we got? This one. So that gets sewn onto there. And then you end up with something like this. So when you're doing the first row, it's fairly obvious where you need to put the next one on. But for the following rows or rounds, whatever you want to call it, you always look for where you can see 3 different strips or pieces of fabric. So here 1, 2, 3. On this side there's only 2, and on this one also 2, and this one only 1. And the one that you have just sewn on, that is where there's only 1 piece. So always look for the 3 fabrics with the 2 seams, and that's where the next one goes on. So if I were to sew, let's say this one onto here, then when I turn it over, I will have 3 fabrics here. And you just carry on like that until you run out of fabric or the block is as big as you want it to be. Right, I should put this somewhere safe. So that's my little scrap busting project, or hopefully scrap busting, although I'll probably end up generating more scraps from it. Who knows? Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day, whatever you're making.